Okay, we're live. Finally, we're live. Uh Took a little while. We had a few technical issues, and so if I look worse than I usually do, that's because I splashed out and bought some decent lighting. So hopefully I'm looking worse than I usually do because it's all blurred. It was all blurred. It should be better now.
Mhm.
Robert, great to have you back.
Good to be back. Good to be back.
It's
Thank
always
you.
always great doing a show with you. And today we've got a special guest, someone I said a blast from the past. It's been a couple of years
Mm.
since he was kicked off of Twitter very ungraciously several times in a row. But he's back, Professor Flynn. How are you doing?
Here I am. I am pumped up to be here. This is the first time I feel like I know Robert. This is the first time I've spoken with you, Robert. And I just want to, if I can, Peter, I just want to take a quick moment
Sure.
to first, because I've been away for so long. I want to, because I don't want to turn this into like a big long circle jerk session, but Peter, the work that you do to build the community, to foster
True.
the discussions, the work that you put in is, I think you were just getting going on it when I got my suspension from Twitter, and I've come back and found this amazing world of Peter. So thank you, Peter, for the work that you do.
Yep, you're welcome. You're welcome. I mean,
And
it's not just me on the channel. I've got a couple of
oh,
amazing co-hosts. Robert is one.
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
we, we
I'm about to embarrass Robert too.
yeah
So
we met on the channel of She Who Shall Not Be Named,
The
and
creature.
that
the
probably
creature.
rings a bell with you. If people want to check you out, I did mirror your conversation with her, and the link
Yeah.
to that is in the description of this video. And I urge everyone to go and watch that because that was sublime. That was great.
Well, that's very kind. It's a long time ago now. It seems like even longer. But I listened back to it again yesterday, in case I had to be reminded of any of my positions in that conversation. And I didn't love it so much when it first streamed and was posted, but watching it again, it was actually, I think it was actually productive in a lot of ways. I think, and maybe
It
we will
was.
discuss that. But um, I think it showed you could have a good-natured discussion um, with that an atheist can have a good-natured discussion with an ardent Christian apologist
Sure.
who was, I think in listening back, I think she was trying her best to be good-natured, but part of the problem with subscribing to any dogma is that, and we all do this in various ways in our lives, we all have our ideas and ideologies, is that, you get in a lane, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
And she was in that conversation in a lane with Dean Esme and the Escaping Atheism crowd at the time, and she could not see her way out of that. And Peter, I saw your subsequent discussion with her, where you basically pressed her on a lot of things I hate in a much
Sure
more
did.
Yep.
in a
Yep.
hardcore way, and she can't get out of. She's in a trench, man, and she can't see out of it. She knows there's a
Yeah.
world up there. She sees blue sky. She hears voices and sees images. She ain't getting out of that trench.
Yeah.
But enough about her. Robert Reed. I'm here to talk
Oh.
about Robert Reed for a moment
Oh, Jesus. All right. Here we
because I already had a great impression of Robert, just of seeing you and exchanging with you back and forth on Twitter. And I was reminded in that podcast I had with the creature of the time, and I said this to her. I said, and I don't know if you saw it, Robert, but I
I
want
did.
to
I did.
reiterate it. We talked about you for a moment, and we both said, "Wow, he seems like a great guy." And I said, "You know what? Robert said one of the most touching things like has ever been said to me or about me when her and her crew got me suspended at one point, and you tweeted something like, "Oh man, I'm gonna cry," and
Yep.
then
I
shortly
remember.
after said, I just get to get off of here for an
Yep.
hour." And I
I
thought, wow,
remember.
that really makes the point that I was trying to make to Stephanie, that like we're not just a bunch of kamikaze pilots.
Yeah.
We are a community. So that So, Robert, you're a
Definitely
fantastic
are.
person.
Thank you so
really
much.
believe that. And
Thank
the
you so
last thing
much.
last thing I'll say, because I know you don't want to hear all the praise.
No, but just
If you're not subscribed or listening to Robert's podcast, you need to. It is, Robert, I got to tell you, it's brilliant. Not just
wow.
because you're brilliant, because you are.
Thank you so much.
It is, you hardly ever say Like there's one episode where you say it twice. You like, I don't know if you know this, you never say virtually
Wow.
never. And you talk for an hour at a time.
I do.
And your comment is funny as hell. You could be a stand-up comedian. But like good stand-up comedians, like, you know, Chris Rock, Richard Pryor, George
Carlin. Yeah.
You know, their comedy is serious as cancer. So is your podcast. And the last
Thank
thing
you.
I'll say is even the structure of your podcast is amazing. The way
Wow.
you take the 29-minute break,
Yeah.
the way you take your, you know, time for a Hendrick. This is, by the way, this is one big gin and tonic. Just so
My
you know.
man.
I'm in my campus office, so I didn't want to bring a bottle. But the way that you have your pauses, the way that you do your hashtags, very, very quick hashtags. And then when you do the recap, you know, here are the problems, here are the solutions. Every solution is shut the fuck up. It is, every podcast is structured like an essay.
Man.
Every podcast is structured like an essay. And I got to tell you, you're a talented motherfucker.
Man. Well, one, I'm trying not to cry. You have no idea.
No, you're amazing. You're amazing.
Yeah, it's tough over here, and okay. So just so you know, thanks so much. And
You're welcome.
so my laugh sounds just like my cry, and so when I laugh, so Bubba just came over here to check to see if I was okay. We didn't realize I'm okay. He just walked back off. But oh man, thank you so much. Life is kind of difficult, and that was that was very nice.
No,
that was very nice. So thank you so much, man.
Just the highest praise to both of you. I've been away and missed it, and have been recently reminded how much I missed it.
Yeah.
So
I gotta ask, since I got you here, because I do remember that podcast with What's Her Face, and the only thing I will disagree with you on was.
Yep.
When you said it's atheists and Christians can't have conversations, that I 100% agree with. I'm starting to wonder, can you have a conversation, an honest one, with an apologist? Because I just, the more I sit here and I think about her, Turk, all those cats, when you say when you're stuck to a script, and I've said this before, I am not the same person I was just a decade ago. My life has been turned so upside down the last 30 days. And I'm not the same person I was last month. And so when you're like, they hear the same shit, but they keep right on track. And I don't remember what she went after, that person went after to get you kicked off.
I had quoted, so I don't know, and maybe we'll get into this, you know, as we go on here, but I don't know how much I got the boot from Twitter in the midst of what was really kind of it was like the civil war between the escaping atheist crowd and our crowd.
Yeah.
And among the worst of those, the offenders on the escaping atheism crowd were, you know, the Max Kolbe-Dean Esme escaping all the things that he is, and Andrew Straight-Laced.
Yes.
And Eve Kaninen.
Oh, God.
Who I actually had a little exchange with earlier today that maybe we'll get
to.
But Andrew Straight-Laced, at that, I mean, he has defenest atheist in his Twitter bio. And that's a portmanteau, that's a combined word for defenestrate and atheist. And as you guys know, defenestrate is like, I'm going to throw you off the top of a building or out the window or out of a helicopter, right?
Right.
So the first word of his Twitter bio places him in the position of excessive, aggressive, murderous, apologist hatred. And he was also at that time posting some well, apart from, you know, accusing anyone he disagreed with of having autism as if that were something wrong.
Yeah.
But he also used to post a fair bit of like hardcore porn, and I'm like, how does this guy never get
Exactly.
suspended? And then he tweeted some like incredibly hateful thing. I quote tweeted it and to comment on it, and I got suspended because of the content that I quoted.
You've got to be kidding me.
He didn't get suspended for the original content. That's what happened. As far as I can tell. I mean, I don't know because I can't get into the account, that old account anymore.
Yeah. I will never understand. I don't think anyone will ever understand Twitter. And just like, I have been called the N-word more times than I actually, I can't remember who it was. Because unlike Stephanie, I don't sit here and keep track of that shit. But I'm very open about my struggles with mental health, and I'm very open about my attempts on my own life. And there was a Christian, of course, and it was more than one actually, and a back and forth, and it ended with something along the lines of, it's a damn shame that you weren't successful at. And they're just like, wait, and no suspension, no nothing.
Sure.
And then I remember making a comment about Candace Owens once, and I called her a coon. I got kicked off. I got suspended. I was like, wait. You can make a joke about suicide. I've seen horrible comments about, I hope you get raped and stuff like that, only to see that person still on Twitter the next day. Yeah. And I call someone a coon. It was like, wait, what? And then you quote tweeted what someone else said. Yeah. You got kicked off, and that person still has an account. I will never understand the inconsistencies of Twitter.
So here's the thing. I have Twitter bad luck, and I would confess, as I did to Stephanie in that chat, I've been a bad boy on Twitter at times, and in a way, I'm glad to have been away from it for a bit.
Sure.
Because it's allowed me to think about my behavior and be mindful of it. And if we can talk about the mental health stuff
sure.
today or another time,
no, I'm all for it.
I have totally been in your boat in every single way,
right,
minus the melatonin. Mm-hmm. I've been in the psych ward. I've attempted suicide. I'm sitting in my campus office right now. You can see over there, it's like the mirror. There's a closet. I began the process a few years ago, just shortly before I got off Twitter, of making a ligature and hanging myself in that very closet. And the campus police got notified and through someone who figured out I was wrong. So if you want to talk the mental health stuff,
I'm all for it, man. I'm all for
it.
Anyhow,
so I've been a bad boy on Twitter, but I finally got reinstated on Twitter, and I'm on there now. And then my account got suspended because I quote tweeted a news story with a video in it of one of the January 6th insurrectionists who was talking about, we need to execute Mike Pence. We need to execute AOC, right? And I quote tweeted that video. And my comment was, look, it's something like, it wasn't hateful. It was something like, look, if anyone in this news story is getting executed anytime soon, it's going to be this dude.
Right.
Which
you got hit.
And I got hit. Now, I won the suspension, but that account is glitched, and I can't actually. I'm reinstated on Twitter, but I actually can't get into. I just learned today that account still exists. I can't get into it. I can read it, but I can't log in.
The funny thing is, I came across that account because you DM'd me from that account. If an account gets suspended, the DMs go away, and your DMs were there, and I thought that's not possible. Yeah. So I clicked on them, and I could scroll back, and then I clicked on and I checked the account. The account is live.
Yeah, so I can't get into it. I try to sign in, and I get bounced to the you need a confirmation code message. But when I get the code and put it in, it just boots me back to that screen again. And I've contacted Twitter; they don't reply. So I'm here now.
I will never understand how that shit works. It's like I'm gonna nail the creature there for a little bit because I can. But it's like, so my biggest fight with her was the mental health tweet, which I think we all saw. And of course, she denied. Then Florida line, got her shit. But the whole, and I told her in DMs, that whole Christianity cures depression bullshit. And then when I told her, like, look, man, you don't understand how lethal this information is. And I even asked her, do you live with a mental illness of any kind? Because when you're in the depth of that shit, and I said, you don't know what's going to come to the top. And my last, cycle of rapid cycling, I was this close. And if I hadn't called my psychiatrist, if I would have fallen to my knees and prayed to Jesus, here's a shocking surprise: Jesus wouldn't have answered the fucking phone. And I'm afraid of what would have happened if I did something other than call my doctor. And I was trying to tell her, I was like, yo, this is lethal information. And long story short, you know how that ends. She doesn't do shit. And then she walks back what she says, I didn't say that. And I was like, you get suspended for quote tweeting someone else's fucked up ass information. And in my opinion, she was putting out lethal fucking shit, telling people basically, yeah, you know all the stuff that works, psychiatrists, psychologists, taking self-care. No, drop on your knees when you're in the depths of depression and at your absolute darkest, and just talk to the fucking wall. She doesn't get suspended, but you do. I will never understand that, honestly.
Well, I can offer an explanation. I have no evidence for this.
Try me.
But my explanation would be there are a lot of evangelicals working at Twitter.
Didn't think about that.
The people assessing the infractions don't come to them with a clean slate, I don't think. And it seems obvious to me.
And keep in mind, Twitter is owned for at least for a big part by Muslims. So they also get a pass.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Well, this is actually, Twitter is, I was going to tweet this earlier today, but I thought, you know what, it's a pretty good line. I'll wait until I have a few more followers, because I'm like, I'm sitting at like 15 followers or something. But what I was going to tweet was something like, Twitter is like the human beings that created it, at the same time, the best thing and the worst thing that's ever been on the planet.
Don't do it. I smell a suspension.
Twitter can be good.
Oh,
Twitter
absolutely.
can be really good, right?
Absolutely.
Holy shit! When it's like the nursery rhyme. There was a little girl had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. When she was good, she was very, very good.
Yeah.
When she was bad, she was horrid. That's Twitter.
Oh yeah, and may I highly recommend that you do. I weigh and measure my tweets.
I'm starting to.
Yeah, because the stuff that I've been suspended for. The first one I absolutely earned. And it was like, again, I quoted a Tupac song. And if I was just talking to my best friend and said it, we would have laughed. But over at Twitter, I totally see how that is a threat on someone's life.
Yeah.
So the first one I earned. The other ones, like calling Candace a coon, I was like, wait, she gets paid to take every opportunity she can to throw black people under the bus. That's kind of the definition of a coon. And I'm telling you, I could not get my thumb off the screen fast enough before they suspended me.
Yeah.
And so again, I will never understand, I don't know, the algorithm or however that works, where you can quote somebody else like you did and get kicked off. SJ could literally send that is lethal information. I don't think that's hyperbole. And the only reason why she's off is because she kicked herself off. Right? I will never understand how this business works. But when you say
not entirely sure.
No, go ahead.
If she actually kicked herself off, she gave that away. She gave that away in the first video that she did after, and I put that on Twitter. Her Twitter account wasn't worth the risk. So now I'm curious.
What do you mean wasn't worth the risk?
Now I'm curious.
She had
what was the risk?
Tens of thousands of followers.
Yeah. She also had an employer, and just a few days before her account disappeared, she tweeted a video that was on the U of Tampa YouTube page.
Right.
So a lot of people went to that particular video and left a comment. And 3 days later, her account is gone.
Who she got her talking to?
Coincidence? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But if you then go talk and say it wasn't worth the risk, so there apparently was a risk.
Well, so I have a slightly related experience to that. And this is from before I got to know you guys and before I ever met Stephanie. I had my Twitter account for a couple of years, and I just use it as a news aggregator, basically.
Right.
But if there's one thing I really can't stand, like I can't stand dishonesty, but I really hate bullying. Anyone who bullies another person, that is asshole. Like, yeah, that's off. That's off the menu for me. But so I was like just farting around on Twitter one afternoon, and I got involved in this discussion with a girl from Australia who said she was like 15, 16 years old, and she had been tweeting about her favorite Disney Channel program, which was called Bella and the Bulldogs. I've never seen Bella and the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
But the premise of it is that Bella is a cheerleader on her high school football team, but then she becomes a member of the football team, and her best friend / boyfriend is a black dude. She's a blonde white girl. Oh. And so this girl in Australia, 15, 16, is tweeting about, I love Bella and the Bulldogs, whatever it was. And that's when I somehow happened upon this, and I saw a bunch of names from what was then the kind of incipient alt-right, like Ricky Vaughn, if you remember the Ricky Vaughn dude, and Andrew Weinerbacher, whatever, like all of the alt-right racist white supremacist motherfuckers started to just abuse her like crazy. So shocking. I stepped in. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to run interference for this girl. And I think it's no heroic act. I'm on Twitter. But I think it drew them away from her a bit, which was okay with me. But a week later, I get an email from my department head copied to the vice dean of my administrative unit, my college, to say, you need to meet with the vice dean of faculty relations. There's these accusations we've received. And I meet him, and I know him. He used to teach in my department, so, we get along well. And he shows me, like, these emails that he and the department head, and I think the university president, too, had been sent. And it's like they photoshopped screenshots of my Twitter feed. Like, they did all this nefarious shit. And I can't remember exactly how they found me. I must have used to have more info in my Twitter bio, which is why I have very little now.
Yeah.
But they tried to dox me. They were trying to get me fired. There's no doubt about it. And those people have long since revealed themselves to be scumbags of the highest order. But they, like Stephanie, went after me in a way that I just never conceived could even happen.
And that's what I will never. Go ahead, Peter. Go
ahead.
And
this is the thing. Stephanie, to this day, will tell everyone that I contacted U of Tampa, I emailed, and I called. Yep. I never did. I
believe you.
I've been close to doing it, and I know one person who actually did, and that person told me to not do it. So I took their advice, and I didn't go through with it. That was the one time where I really came close, because of the constant harassment on Twitter and telling people that I contacted her employer when I never did.
There's
but here's the thing. No, go ahead.
Yeah, in the initial spat, someone else tagged in her employer, and I didn't notice, because back then, and still, Twitter won't show you everyone who's tagged in. It will tell you one or two names and several others. And I never look whether or not someone's added to that. So there was an whole conversation that I had, and someone had tagged in her account. I know who tagged in her account. And I got the blame for that. And so now I'm at a point where if I think it's necessary that they see something, I will tag in U of Tampa, knowing full well that they're not going to watch any of it, knowing full well that they're not going to reply to any of it. But apparently they did when people went after her video.
Here's the. Sorry, Robert. Go ahead.
No, which video are you talking about, Peter?
She tweeted a video, and the one thing that I did do is I took screenshots of it with some really weird expressions of her and another female teacher. Just made fun of the expressions, because I noticed them while I was watching, and I thought, this is funny. And then that was it. But apparently she there was a lot of shit going on that YouTube channel. I haven't checked. It probably is gone by now, because that's probably one thing where they will check the comments on a video. But
she was also, and this is something that really exculpates you of any guilt in this. She was, at that time, I remember looking, she was getting killed on rateyourprofessor.com by people who were very likely not her students at all, because you will see that, prominent people who are also professors, people who just hate them, will go on to rateyourprofessor.com and write shitty reviews. It's like people who spam Amazon with bad reviews by books of books by people they don't like. So a bunch of people were doing that to Stephanie at the time. And Peter, I think you're right. University administrations don't pay much attention to shit like this unless there's something, there's a threat or violence or something like that. But every now and then, and I know this from experience because of one of my colleagues, every now and then, departments, colleges, universities actually look at people. They look at faculty's Facebook feeds and Twitter feeds and stuff like that. And you could call it spying, except it's out there, and that was her mistake, putting herself out there too much. But I
wouldn't call that spying. You're on a public forum.
Yeah,
and that means you agree with the fact that everyone can see what you put out there.
Yeah,
and if you then are going to tweet questionable tweets, that's on you.
Be held responsible.
That's on you.
Yeah,
and I think all of us know that she doesn't take responsibility for anything she says.
Not at all, which is crazy. That's one thing I've never understood. Because, we've all done it. Peter, you were one of my favorites when that's when I found out what gaslighting was. Because I was like, okay, it was the quote about, my brain just farted. God gave us the Holocaust so we can learn how to treat Jews, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, I didn't say that. And so I was like, wait. And I remember I was in DMing with Florida Line, and I was like, am I fucking crazy? I could have sworn I just heard her say that, right? And then so many people chimed in, and then Peter topped it off because everyone was like, nope, here it is. And they bookmarked it, and it's like, okay, it's at this minute. Peter put Stephanie's face, on an SS soldier uniform.
No.
What was it?
No, it was a shot from a movie. It wasn't an actual SS officer.
Okay.
So
but she was decked out in the old Nazi garb, right?
I really put some thought into this, not putting her head on an actual war criminal. Not
an actual war criminal.
But it got the point across.
It got the point across.
And it was just like, and then you put the quote on there, and I remember my response was like, then I turned it to, so if that's the case, did God give us the transatlantic slave trade to teach us how to treat blacks? And that's when Craig Reed jumped in with a whole bunch of bullshit.
But Craig Reed confirmed first. Craig Reed, you
Yes.
said, did she just say this? Because then,
Yes.
by accident, her internet cut out
Yeah,
after she
shocking.
said it.
Hold on.
And so that was a tiny accident. Her internet cut out, and you said, "Did she actually say this?" And Craig Reed said, "Yep, that's what she said." So
I guess my point is, I guess I don't understand how it is. I mean, honestly and truly, so I get it. We all signed on the line that was dotted, be it YouTube, Twitter, Facebook.
Yep.
Every single last one of us has had our ass put in a sling for saying something bad, 100%. Tweeting something bad. I will never understand how SJ up to this point has been fucking untouchable, because she is awful. I mean, absolutely emotionally venomous. I mean, I did a whole fucking episode on her on my show because it was like, this person is awful. Awful.
So, I need to say 3 quick things. I'll say them quickly. And I know I talk a lot, but I'll go fast. The first thing is, I think the reason she has got away with it in the past is that she's just vague enough, right? She's not Dean Esme. She's not innocent, but she's what we white supremacist adjacent or asshole adjacent, although she's clearly an asshole as well. The second thing, your first point in what you're saying there, Robert, why doesn't she ever apologize? The thing that I find most amusing about her, and she does offer apologies, but they're never for the actual thing, right?
Exactly.
And here's the thing. That's, if anyone doesn't want to apologize, I guess, don't apologize. Like, I'm a big apologizer, but others not so much, that's fine. But if you're a Christian and you believe that confessing and asking forgiveness for your sins is what gets you to the fucking afterworld that you're trying to sell us on, why the fuck do you not apologize? That's the second thing. Here's the third thing. I got to keep burning.
No,
Robert.
keep going, man. Keep going.
I'm not as good as Robert on his podcast. That's the Gin and Truth podcast, I might add. Oops, I forgot to name it earlier.
Thank you.
The third thing is the exact instance that you just mentioned about, God created the Holocaust so that we could feel sympathy for the Jews. I brought that up with her in my streamed chat with her. Right. And I didn't bring it up in terms of the Holocaust. I brought it up. I went through, it's the best part of that video. It's pretty funny, actually. I went through some of her Twitter greatest hits, like the worst thing she ever said, that children of the Canaanites are weeds. And I'm like, what are the implications of that? And one of the things I asked her, there was at the time, and I don't know if this is photoshopped or the real thing, there was going around at the time a photograph of a starving, emaciated, I think, Ethiopian.
Yes, I know exactly that photo.
With the vulture. The vulture, right?
Yes.
And so I asked her in the podcast, and she said in the tweet, she tweeted that meme. She tweeted that. And what she tweeted was that God created the conditions.
That's right. I remember
the photographer to take that photograph in order to strengthen people's sympathy and empathy. And so I asked her in our chat, I said, Stephanie, do you really believe that an all-powerful being, Yahweh, or God, whatever the fuck you want to call that asshole, do you really believe he orchestrated this entire thing just to create empathy in the people that viewed it? And she said, well, maybe I didn't say that so artfully. But then I was rewatching it yesterday. That's why I kind of remember it well. I'd forgotten about it. But what I should have said to her at the time is, and I'll use now the example of the Holocaust. Okay.
Hit it.
If God orchestrated the Holocaust in order to increase our empathy, sympathy, respect for the Jewish people, I'm going to now demonstrate that God is an amoral, asshole, murderer, and dumb. Because if I were God, I would persuade or coerce the empathy, sympathy with, and respect for the Jews by creating other human beings who treated the Jews like they were the best people on the fucking planet. That is easy to do because I'm fucking God.
Shocking.
I chose to take the most sadistic route possible, right?
Yep.
She has no answer. She has
no of course not. Of course not. And so I remember that. I remember that back and forth. Lots of people have tried to defend that photo. And I don't know if people know this, but the photographer who took it, and I'm not being glib when I say it, that person took their life.
Oh, yeah.
That image was so fucked up. because the bird was just sitting there waiting for this kid to topple over to have an easy meal.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying from the very beginning, is like, I've had talks with Christians. We disagree, but we can at least, a debate doesn't happen unless there's some common ground, right? It's like if I live in Dallas and if I want to get to San Antonio, I can go I-10 or I can go I-35. Either way, we're going to get to San Antonio. Right. It's just which road are we taking?
Yep.
We're having two different discussions. Right. And so when you talk to an apologist, again, like you said, their only job is to stick to a fucking script. And their only thing now to do is to make an excuse for everything their God fucked up. Like, I don't know, a vulture literally waiting to eat a kid whose heart just stopped beating. And when Turek talked to Dave Silverman, who I'm not a fan of, but just so happens to be Jewish, and during their debate flashed a picture on a big screen of probably 30 to 40, Jewish corpses. And he said, well, if there is no God, that's not wrong. And then when I asked Stephanie about, so by that logic, did God give us a slave trade to teach us how to treat blacks? That was what, 2.5, 3 years ago? Probably 4 years ago, still waiting on an answer, and Craig is somewhere tap dancing on a stage. And it's like, you cannot have an honest conversation with these people. That is why I have separated, like I can separate Republicans from Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. I now separate Christians from Christian apologists, because apologists are the fucking worst. That's why I've said, that's why I won't talk about rape with an apologist, because the only thing it was that kid, Peter, and we actually had a good discussion with him, the Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I'm looking right at him, babyface, college student, but it was totally unrehearsed because the dude was doing the whole tap dancing about rape, and I was just like, hey Peter, what do you think about rape? You know what Peter said? It fucking sucks. I was like, let's go buy some beers, right? Yeah. It just like it's how easy of a discussion is that? Yeah. And when you have to have these 9-hour-long conversations, that's like, you're an apologist. And all you're going to do is sit here and make basically an apology, an excuse on why Deuteronomy literally says if he rapes a woman who's a virgin, who's, you got to pay for her because it's a break it, you buy it clause, and now you have to marry her. By any other logic, we say that's fucked up. But they have to have an excuse. So it's just, again, I can talk to Christians. I cannot talk to apologists.
There's another thing that I want to highlight.
Hit it.
And I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for the tiny community I find myself in. I've had friends on Twitter that have followed me the moment that I got on Twitter, and I'm still friends with. And I need to do a shout out for Sally, the Ouroboros.
Mm-hmm.
There's Greg Marineland.
Yes.
Yep.
Those people, if I screw up on Twitter, those people will come to me. And Flynn, you were one of those people as well. Florida Line is one of them. And they were all part of a small group that has been in touch for several years now. Mm-hmm. If I screw up, Sally's absolutely the first who's going to hit me up in DMs and tell me, you can't do this. You need to either retract that, delete the tweet, or apologize for it. This is something you just crossed the line. Yep. And that's how our community works. And I've never seen that happen in the Christian community. If one of them screws up, the others all rally in to defend that specific person and to tell everyone that it wasn't meant that way and it wasn't that bad. And they're going to tell you all kinds of excuses, but you're never going to get an apology or a retraction.
Never.
That is the difference between the community that I'm part of, and I know that it's not all across the board. but I'm really proud. So the fact, Flynn, that you got back in touch after 2 years, we tried to get back in touch, didn't always work. To me, that's a sign that we have a decent friendship, and that friendship can survive a 2-year hiatus, no problem at all. And when you think you can come back, you come back, and you're part of the same community again. And
but see, to me, that's a sign of honesty, and more importantly, compassion.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's especially with what's going on in my personal life. I told my dad, and we always say no one wants to be that guy, but all my coaches were right when they said, we are not teaching you how to win games. We're teaching you how to live your life.
Yep.
Right. And one thing that I'll never forget, I can almost tell you to the day, and it was, when you fuck up and a coach jumps on your ass, that's when you should be clapping and celebrating, because that coach cares about you enough to correct your mistakes. Now, when you fuck up and you fuck up and no one says a word, it's like, that's when you should be worried, because that's when we've given up on you, right?
Exactly.
And you're right, Peter. That's the difference between kind of us and them. Yeah. I've gotten DMs, and the one who gets on me the most is Lady L. I have put out some things that are just like, and I mean, if I do it at 4:00 at 4:01, it's like, what in the fuck? And it's like, because someone cares enough at minimum to keep that social space safe, or at least, cares enough about me to make me better. And I said before a million times, the reason why I am the way I am now, because I had a lady, this short redhead, I'll never forget her, comes up to here, and I've said it a million times, grabbed me by my shirt, pulled me down, cussed me the fuck out. And it was like, you are not homophobic and you are not misogynistic, but every word out of your mouth betrays what's in you. And she laid me out. And I had to sit there, and I was like, got it right there. And she wore me out. I mean, and this tiny little woman, and here's the thing, married to another little redheaded woman, and I loved them. We had this great relationship. And she beat my ass down. Yeah. And then her and her wife both got transferred to another job. And I changed so much that to this day, and I finally put it back out because Bubba stopped chewing with every fucking thing. They got me this book, and it was called Women in Sports. And I'll never forget it. And I can't even read it because I'll still cry. And they wrote in it a very touching note. And at the end, it said, for your continuing education. I'll never forget that.
Care.
Right, because they care. And then you're right, Peter. When a Christian fucks up, it's you took that out of context. That's not what they meant, and all this other bullshit. And I think we care enough about each other because we don't believe that there's some God to wipe our ass and say, you're going to be okay. We have to check each other, and you don't take that type of criticism personally.
No.
Right? So, I mean, if Peter sent me a message filled with, you N-word, you stupid bastard, block. But if I said something and I get a DM, it's like, dude, you really want to think about what you just said. That's constructive criticism. We can take that.
To be fair, in a real life scenario, you would be DMing me. I would never be DMing you because.
But you've checked me on shows before. I mean, I went when we talked to Matt Powell. When we talked to Matt Powell, I went maybe just a little bit too much. And I remember you were like right there in the middle of the show. You're like, not fair, not fair, not fair. And it was like, boom. And that's the difference between us. That is why we grow, because we will sit here and tell each other, you really need to think about what the fuck it is you just said. Versus the other side where it's like, no, it's okay. And it's not okay.
I want to chip in really quickly on this if I can,
hit it.
To point out a couple of things and maybe ask a question. The thing I'll point out is that, first of all, Robert, I think your distinction between Christian or any kind of believer and apologist, that is a useful distinction. because I agree that it is impossible to have these conversations. I won't say impossible. It is virtually impossible to have a sane, authentic, genuine conversation with a Christian apologist. And I think, I don't know if Darth Dawkins is the current worst Christian apologist, but he's up there. Like, you can't touch that guy.
Yes, he is.
And part of the problem, Peter, when you're talking about, and this stems back to what Robert was saying about, why can't the creature apologize? Why can't these, if you're not going to apologize, Christian apologist, that's one thing, but why not correct your fellow Christian or Christian apologist?
Exactly.
Or at least not allow them to fall flat on their face, because where's the friendship in that? And the reason that they can't correct or nudge, that is the reason that apologists can't correct or nudge their comrades when they get out of their lane, is that the dogma doesn't allow it. There is no, Peter, the reason that these people can't apologize, and Robert, they can't apologize, there's no apologies in the dogma. Dude, my script does not feature an apology. How am I going to do it? And Darth Dawkins doesn't want there, or whoever doesn't want there to be an apology in the script, and he's happy that there isn't. Man, it ain't on the page. He ain't doing it. And the last thing I'll say is this really quickly. If you want to go Venn diagram, everything that's just been said about the way that Christian apologists won't correct their bad actors is 100%, I'm not saying causation, but is 100% correlated to the current state of the conservative movement and Republican Party in the United States, where they won't push back against that asshole Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Even Congress people, Congressman, what's his name, Andrew Clyde, there's photographs and video of him like putting the furniture up against the walls inside Congress to keep the rioters out. And he says in Congress, 3 months later, many months later, he says, "Oh, if you didn't know that it was an insurrection, hadn't been told it was insurrection, it would look like any other general guided tour of Congress."
Oh, that's right.
Says the guy who's trying to barricade them.
Absolutely.
Right? So there is conservatives, and I don't like eliminationist rhetoric in general. I think it's bad. I think that it leads to scapegoating. We shouldn't be comparing people to diseases or rodents or any of that shit. That being said, the conservative movement for a long time, apart from all the stuff, anyone left of their preferred reality at the moment is a commie, a socialist, whatever. That's all bullshit. And I'm forgetting what I was going to say. Commie. Oh,
we were on apologists. We were on apologists.
Give me one second.
Go ahead.
Oh, the fact that they can't speak back, they can't push back. That when Liz Cheney, who is not a delightful human being in any way that I'm aware of, socially and politically, other than supporting her gay sister, she gets booted from her position in the party because she won't embrace the big lie. Christian apologists are the same fucking way. I've heard it from the big, side 10 Brugenkate used to be a big thing. That guy wouldn't know how to apologize if he knocked over your tray at a cafeteria lunch.
Wait. He recently did. Because
I'm about to say, hold on. I may need a refill.
Hold on.
I'm not drunk enough.
Don't.
Are we at the 29-minute mark, Robert?
Don't shoot too soon, because what happened is a tiny thing fell out of his pants, and so he apologized to his church.
Oh no!
I'm not aware that he apologized to the woman who got hit by the thing that fell out of his pants. He apologized to his church.
He sent a dick pic to someone
and his followers that he couldn't keep it in his pants. So
Okay. First and foremost, I'm not buying that. I have no doubt that he actually apologized, but that to me is like fucking Cro-Magnon man, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes.
She didn't apologize because she realized her statements about mask wearing and the Holocaust were bad. She apologized because her monkey ass got pressed up against a wall. Tim Bruggencate is devoid of shame. He just wants to get back in the circle, and so he'll apologize that he sent. And the fucked up thing about dick pics, like when we in the NFL when we found out that Brett Favre was sending dick pics, it's like you ever notice that it's the dudes who's not hung like a fucking mule sending dick pics.
That's so weird.
Apparently, Brett Favre is 6'3", and he's hung like a grade school eraser. It is like, so I'm wondering, with Tim Bruggencate sending, the tip of my thumb to some lady. But
Robert, I need to correct you on stream again. If you say dick pics one more time, I'm going to point out that we do have another channel that's called Gonna Go For Some More. And just before this show, I uploaded a video that I made today of a Christian apologist who, for 7 minutes straight, tells me what a terrible piece of shit I am. And I laughed until I cried because guess what happened? I sent him a dick pic. The problem was you couldn't see the dick because it was too small. And the other problem was the guy with the dick had his face on it. And that was just too much.
I've done that. There was a lady I was messing around with a long time ago, right after my divorce. And she was like, I don't do dick pics. And I was like, you don't even have to say that because I don't send them. So just to fuck with this person, I got my iPad and I put up a picture of Dick Cheney. And I put it on my crotch and I sent her a picture. I'm like, here's the only dick pic you'll ever get from me. It's just like, again, it's normally the guys who are like fucking prepubescent.
I still want to know what gets into a guy when he decides that there's this person on Twitter he's never met, never talked to, but decides now it's a good thing to take a picture of my dick and send that to that person. I've done really stupid things in my life, things I am ashamed of. That idea has never crossed my mind.
Me neither. What's that, Flynn?
I think that the reason for guys to do that is, not to be sexist. Although I'm a member of the sex that I'm about to be
try me. Bash away
or the gender, at least. Sorry. I think the same impulse that inspires a guy to show a pic of his dick is the same impulse that inspires is a horrible word, that motivates a guy to grab a woman's ass or grab her breasts or sexually assault her, just on a slightly lighter scale. And it's the same thing.
I think you absolutely fucking nailed it. I don't care if you want this or not, you're going to take this anyway type of mentality.
Yeah.
Pretty much what I see at work for 8 hours a day. Yeah. And it's like, it's one of those things that if your kid did something like that, you beat the brakes off of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, if she didn't ask for X, don't send X. And I remember telling somebody at DM relationship, this person was showing me this laundry list. Right? How do I say this? This person would always have a sultry smile on Twitter. And I would see her on the Twitter timeline, and people would say certain things. And not that she needed me to, but it's like, if she wants to be sexy, then she can be sexy.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and it was kind of like, well, if you don't want a picture of my scrotum, why are you, showing, a picture of you, like smiling while holding on a glass of champagne? It's like, maybe because she wants to. And I remember we still are doing DMs, and she would sit there and she would show me these laundry lists. It's like, and she never once even hinted she wanted to see someone else's dick. But again, all these guys with what would probably be 1 centimeter over a medical micro penis sending her pictures. And it's like, if she didn't ask, put your fucking camera down.
I had a very young student, a woman, she was like 18, 19, and we were talking about some issue related to this in class. I can't remember what. And she said a thing, and I won't say it as well as she did. She was really smart. She's a doctor now. And found out at the age of 28 that she's gay and is now happier than she's ever been. Good for her.
Absolutely.
So she said it this way. She said, just because a woman wants to look sexy doesn't mean that she wants to do anything sexual with you or anyone.
Exactly. It's you would, and I had to do it because right now, if I don't, he's gonna peel the skin off my leg. But Papa had to hit the screen. I don't know if you guys can see him.
I mean,
I saw him for a second.
A dog can always photobomb on our show.
Oh yeah. I cannot say. I want to say one other thing really quickly. I have decided from now on that my name for side 10, Rugen Kate, is going to be side 10 Rub and Tug, because that's what he was looking for.
Yeah, and speaking of apologists, one thing that I love. Not really. But like I saw a video from Frank Turek, and he did one on Ravi Zacharias. And they don't apologize, but Thor forbid one of them colors outside the lines just a little bit. You are dead. Right now, I can't remember what even Ravi did. I can't remember the multiple affairs. I don't remember it being a sex crime, but you know, how Sai went under the bus, how Ravi went under the bus. But here's the thing. If you don't, little corrections add up. So again, it's like, yo, you shouldn't have said that. Yo, don't post that. You got these little bitty corrections. And so we keep each other in check. Christians, like we said, all they do is sit there and wipe each other's ass. And no matter what they say or do, it's all good. No, you misquoted that person. That's not what the Bible says. It's taken out. So by the time one of them blows up, it is a Ravi Zacharias. It is a Cy Tim Bruggen Kate. Who's the asshole from Arizona? It is a Ted Haggard. So it's like, are we perfect? Oh, God, no. We still have Dave Silverman to deal with. But I've checked him, and who the fuck hasn't checked him publicly? But those guys, they just sweep everything under the rug until it's a Chernobyl level meltdown and you can't deny it anymore.
I don't know if any of you saw it. Pastor Locke has something new now, which is called the Lockumentary, because he has a tiny ego. It's called the Lockumentary.
Right.
To go along with his tiny body.
Yeah. So what he did for his first episode is he talked about the tree. Apparently near him there's a tree, which isn't a tree, but it's a bunch of trees, and there's even a walkway going in between the tree. And he told people, I camped here, and this is where I talk to God, and obviously what you do in the middle of nature is make a campfire where the grass is this high and you could set an entire piece of land on fire because you need to talk to God. And that's where he made the decision to approach his new wife. And I watched the whole thing. And guess what wasn't in there? The fact that he put his ex-wife on a bus, had her shipped out of state, then gaslighted her in private messages, called her a slut, body shamed her, complained about her haircut that she didn't get, blaming her for the relationship going bust when it was his daughter who found him doing the naughty thing with the church secretary, who's now his wife.
Shocking.
Funny how that didn't make the documentary, because I'd
never
say that was a big part of Pastor Locke's life, but apparently he forgot.
Do you guys actually think they believe this bullshit? I mean, how much is Greg Locke an act? You know what I mean? It's like...
I can answer that, because he was on our show.
By all means.
He was on our show telling us that it was an act. He told us...
I missed that part.
He told us on air that there's two Greg Locks. There's the one who will talk to you in person, and then there's the Greg Locke who's on social media and is triggering everybody.
Okay.
And he will go after gays on social media, will condemn them, will tell them they will burn in hell, and when they come to his church, they're welcomed and they're part of the community. That's literally what he told us on air.
So Peter, I don't know if you asked. I didn't see it, and I apologize. But I don't know if you asked him this, but my question to him would be, and I wonder if you have an answer, or at least an instinct. Are the two Greg Locks? Do the two Greg Locks believe the same thing? So that
Great
what we're
question.
really talking about is one Greg Locke and two different behaviors. Is that what he's up to?
I didn't ask him that, but I doubt that he's sincere in his beliefs. If a person lies about pretty much everything in their life, I'm not going to believe anything they tell me about their religion. There's one person.
Guys, no, here we go. Now Bubba is jealous because Papa's in my lap.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, down.
Time for dog stacking. Stacking. Oh
no, Bubba weighs too much. Go.
There's one person I think actually believes what he tells people, and that is Kent Hovind. He has basically brainwashed himself. That's my opinion. I think he literally believes all the bullshit he says, because there's no way that you can get educated pretty much every single debate you do and just push that away as if nothing ever happened and just...
But isn't that every apologist, right? How many times has Ray Comfort been told, right? It's like, so you're an atheist, so you believe that nothing created everything. That's got nothing to do with atheism, but he says it every time. When Cy has been checked, when Frank Turk has been checked, and before I forget, like, I don't care if what Kent Hovind says is an act, because as far as I know, he's just stupid, right? But what bothers me, and I just saw that online documentary about fuckface Greg Locke, is when he kept going on about COVID. It's a hoax. It's not a pandemic. And the report, and this was a big channel, I think it was even CNN, and they were like, it is a pandemic. Well, it's not a pandemic. And the reporter's like, define pandemic. Yeah, and he was like, well, I don't know what it is, but I know that this isn't it. Yeah. Okay, it's an act. That's great. But as they go in, so they showed one family, and this is just one. Not only have they splintered, like we hate each other, Hatfield and McCoy's level, but it was like, this side was like, everything Greg Locke says is true.
Yeah.
If you just pray enough, Jesus will cure it. Fucking SJ. And this side was like, hold on. But the fucked up part about that, the side that's sitting there saying that what Greg Locke is saying is true, they lost two blood family members to COVID because he kept packing people in. And so it's like, okay, it's an act. Like, so like Alex Jones. Alex Jones is an act. I know someone who went to high school with Alex Jones. He's like, he was quiet, withdrawn, and a fucking nerd. It's an act. But your act is only as severe as the consequences it causes. So what? Hovind doesn't believe in evolution. Who gives a shit? But Greg Locke is telling everyone, get on your knees, pray. COVID is a hoax. Your act is costing people lives. There's my problem with it.
I want to weigh in on this in a way that I hope won't be too nerdy, although I may have crossed that bridge long ago.
Try me. We all have.
In my world, I'm a professor in the humanities, and I read and teach and discuss poetry a lot with my students. And one of the things that I say to my students, certainly in my first year poetry classes, is that there's a 95% plus of poems written in English are what are known as lyric poems. And so every Shakespeare sonnet is a lyric poem. And all a lyric poem means, it doesn't mean it's like a song. It means that a lyric poem will seem to be about an external object. Like you might read a poem about a meadow or a tree or a cow, right? But in lyric poetry, you're not looking at the external meadow or tree or cow. Lyric poems are really about the impressions of the imagined speaker of that poem who's perceiving the meadow or the tree or cow. So if you read a poem in which there's a poem from the Harlem Renaissance that I'm not going to remember, Derek Walcott poem that I'm not going to remember the name of, but it's about drinking lemonade on a really, really hot day. So
Right.
That poem is about lemonade, sure. It's really about the imagined speaker of that poem, because Derek Walcott is the author of the poem. He isn't like the character who speaks the poem and is drinking the lemonade at that moment.
Right.
So what I say to my students all the time is, don't confuse the external content of lyric poetry with what the author actually believes. What it really is the author creating a speaker, what we call a persona. The author creates a speaker or persona who has these ideas and tastes that lemonade and sees that tree and that meadow and that cow,
Right.
or whatever. And that you shouldn't confuse the author with the speaker. They're not the same person.
Sure.
Like Mark
Sure.
Twain wrote Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. There he uses the N-word in that novel, or he puts the N-word in the mouth of his characters. Mark Twain was not a racist. There are fucking racist characters in that novel that he created.
Right.
So what I tell my students all the time is, don't confuse the author with what gets said in the text.
Absolutely.
Christian apologists, it just struck me now, Robert, as you were saying all that. Christian apologists are kind of like poets in that way, only different. So I asked, I'm sorry to blab.
No,
So,
go on. I love this.
I had asked Peter, could you distinguish between the Greg Locke who believed two different things, or just behave differently around one central belief that all Greg Locke personas adopted? And Peter would make that distinction. My experience, I think, is a little closer to yours, Robert. I tell my students, don't confuse the author with the speaker. I wouldn't say that about Christian apologists.
Right.
I would always say that the Greg Locke who says the vile things when he's in character, those vile things come from a place. And the place they come from is Greg Locke. So whether it's the nice Greg Locke or the mean Greg Locke, the loving Greg Locke or the hateful and hate-mongering Greg Locke, those are different personas,
but
they all come from the same place.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't get off scot-free because he ain't Shakespeare creating a persona to admire some trees. He is creating an ulterior persona in order to bash atheists. That's
Absolutely.
all it is.
Yeah.
So that's my rant. Sorry.
No, I totally dig it. And I've said this before as well. It's like, whether you say fuck you or fuck you, it's still fuck you. Right? And so your character, Greg, spews venom, but it is directly tied to whoever goes home at night and watches cartoons with his kids. We can't separate the two. And again, even like a Donald Trump, even if Donald Trump doesn't mean a thing he says, January the 6th still happened.
Yep.
And his apologists will sit here and say he's not responsible for it. Then you fuck around and you watch 4.5 years of him spewing violent venom. And again, it's like, even if it's an act. I can't separate the results from
He created
the
the
person.
act.
Right. And even if you are a hate-filled bigot, even
Yeah.
on the inside, if you're a hate-filled bigot, and all you say is Black, Jewish, Mexican, gay, straight, doesn't matter. Hug everyone around the neck. Tell everyone you love them. Treat everyone the way you want to treat yourself. Even on the inside, if you're rotten to the fucking core, if the end result is we're all hugging each other, I still can't separate the person who may call me the N-word behind my back.
Right.
To me, it's no different than Locke, Stephanie, all those idiots. Even if it's an act, I still have to tie you. Here we go again. Football lesson 101. What you do speaks so loud I can't hear what you say.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, I could tell Peter I love him all I want, but if all you see is me holding him down by his neck and punching him in his face, you can say Robert said he loved him, or Robert just punched Peter unconscious. Right?
Faith and works. Faith and
Right.
works.
There we
Robert.
go. So again, it's I don't give a shit if what Greg says is an act or anybody else. The end results are still the same.
It's not only Greg. I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Flynn. I think I met you over the same person I met Robert.
Oh my God. Keep going.
So
Yeah. You have an amazing memory, Peter.
Very.
So,
I think that's how our little band got together. That was the Christian apologist being terrible on Twitter, and I met Robert on her channel. That's
that was before she went on Dillahunty, right? That was long before that.
No. That was after.
It was after. So
Yes.
we've only known each other since. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like I've known you longer than that because I was one of the people, and she said this during her chat with Dillahunty.
No, you're correct. You're correct. That was
Okay.
it. We created the barrage of tweets that Matt Dillahunty talked about
Right,
when
right.
he had
That-
her
yeah.
on the show and decided this is the first person I'm going to talk to.
Because I messaged her a bunch of times before that to say, Stephanie, don't do this. I know you want to do this. Don't do it. Don't do the Jesus, the whole thing. Like, don't do it. Find a better way. It's not going to work.
I was the opposite. I told her to go for it. I
You're a
needed
sadist.
I needed to see that. I needed to see her being hung up on that. And that video is on our channel. It's sadly it's the most watched video on our channel. I think it has far over 100K views right now.
The
Which one
mirror
was that?
of Dillahunty.
Where she calls in. Well, she calls in at the Atheist Experience. Yeah.
It is hilarious.
And that caused a lot of trouble. Me putting that on our channel initially.
Really?
Yes, because she contacted the ACA. First, now let me tell the story straight. So first she contacted me and she told me that there were people who were leaving comments and they were insulting her and I should delete those. And I told her we get comments where we get insulted and I'm not deleting those.
Yep.
So why would I delete comments from anyone else? And then she said, well, there's a death threat. And I looked through all of the comments. And back then, that was still doable because it was only up for a couple of weeks. No death threat.
Shocking.
So I did a search on YouTube. Found the same clip on a different channel. And guess what? There was a death threat. Now, she contacted the ACA, told them that I had a death threat on my channel and didn't want to delete it. So John I. Coletti contacted me and said, we gave you permission to post the clip. We're revoking the permission. You need to take it down because there's a death threat. And I told him, that's not on our channel.
Yeah.
I'm not going to police the comments. If it's insulting, I will leave them up. We have had comments where people said Stephanie deserved to get cancer.
Yeah.
Those are the comments that I will not only delete, I will report them to YouTube, and I will block the person from our channel.
And you told Stephanie.
No matter what, if they're talking about Stephanie or anyone else, those comments are not allowed on our channel. If there's a death threat, if there's a threat of violence, if there's any severe threat, it will get deleted and the person will get reported. But then she started blackmailing me, and she said, I'm going to report you to YouTube because people in the comments have said she's a university professor and left the university there. I said, listen, you put your name out there. If I type it in on Google, there's one top result. Guess who it is?
Yep.
I can't stop people from using Google.
Yeah. No.
And she told me, you're either going to police the comments, including the ones that are insulting to me, or I will report you to YouTube. And she did.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And she did.
Okay. And this is what I'm saying.
And
Go ahead. Boy, I cannot stand her.
I appealed, and I won. And then I tagged. That's where I tagged in her employer and said, you're now trying to blackmail me. It's not going to work. Here are the screenshots. This is your report. This is my appeal. This is what YouTube said. And
okay. See, and that's my problem with an SJ. Again, it's not just that she puts up fucked up ass information. She's toxic all the way around. It's like she will punch you in the face. And then blood splatters all over the place. She gets some on her very nice, linen blouse, and he's like, "Who's gonna pay? Yeah, who's gonna pay for the dry cleaning?" And it's just, and that's when I learned about gaslighting, and it's just like, you're the one who says fucked up shit. You're the one who sends out lethal information. You're the one who insults people at their very core, but yet we're the ones who are supposed to turn around and apologize to you, right? I'm so sorry that my blood got on your $5,000 dress.
Yeah,
she is garbage, and I'm glad we're having this talk because I have, ever since I blocked her, she never blocked me, even though she threatened me like 4 times. And I said, if you're feeling froggy, then jump. I can't stop you. But she's just a horrible person with an enormous social media presence. Go ahead.
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here and try to channel my inner the creature whisperer a little bit.
Okay.
Before I do that, I want to say quickly, Robert, in response to something you said before Peter filled us in on that stuff and reminded us of that stuff was, we're talking about the way a person is and the way they act, what they say, and how they behave.
Right.
Totally get you. I think that also works the other way. So you have like Greg Locke, who, has said, he's a really nice guy. He just adopts this badly behaved persona on Twitter, social media, whatever. And another way I talk about this to my students is like, if you imagine like the author of a book or a poem as a ventriloquist, and then the poem itself is the dummies speaking the ideas, like you ventriloquism acts work because we suspend our disbelief and imagine that the dummy has its own consciousness, right? That it insults the ventriloquist and all the stuff. But they're two separate things. They're two separate beings. That's the idea. That's what the illusion that sustains the performance or the poem.
Right.
But it's also true that, as I was kind of saying earlier, the ventriloquist is the one who has the ideas, who is literally moving the mouth of the thing to make it talk. So that works in one direction that we've discussed so far. That is Greg Locke, claiming to be a nice person, but being a bad actor on Twitter. But it also works in the other direction, right? That there are really bad people out there, racist, white supremacists, and Robert, you know more about this than I do, but they are bad, but they play the character of good because they don't say those things in public until they slip and they get caught, and then it's all denial. Now, what do they always say? They always say, "That's not who I am."
Oh,
Bitch,
yeah.
asshole, that's who you are,
Yep.
motherfucker. That's why you said it, no
Yep.
matter what character you said it in.
Yep.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, oh no, Peter, what were you talking about? The creature.
Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna be like, try to channel my inner
Try me.
the creature whisper thing. I have to say, this is amusing only to me. I teach the novel Frankenstein a lot by Mary Shelley, and lots of people call amazing book.
Yeah.
Lots of people call Frankenstein's creature a monster.
No.
I always call it the creature.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a monster. It's not.
It's
monster.
not.
No.
He's not.
I call it the creature. So when you first said at the beginning of this conversation to refer to SJT as the creature, I immediately thought of Frankenstein's creature, which makes sense because she sewed together so many parts of Christian apologism, right?
Yep.
Anyhow, I'm gonna again channel my inner being nice to Stephanie. So
I'm not.
Stephanie, sorry, the creature. The creature. I've talked to the creature about this, and she has a very weird work setup, from what I can tell. So I'm a tenured professor. They could, like, when I met about the people who doxed me, the university really couldn't do shit. They could say, "Could you try to be kinder?" But I have tenure. Good luck firing me. Stephanie's. So I'm on, like, I'm here until I retire, basically, unless I assault or murder someone.
Right.
And I only have one colleague that I sometimes contemplate.
Don't we all? No, you're not.
But I know from talking. I know from talking to the creature that her contract works differently. And Robert, you'll get this in an NFL context, a pro football context. She doesn't have like I have a lifetime contract. She doesn't have 10-year, 7-year, 5 years. She has a year-to-year contract. And every year, she has to get rehired right around this time of year. But at the same time, she says she has tenure. So I don't know what's going on at her institution, but where I live and come from, she sounds like, and this is not to denigrate this, but she sounds like she's an adjunct professor, which is work that a lot of people who can't get full-time tenured jobs do on a year-to-year basis. It's kind of like the minor leagues in a way, but you get to play in big league stadiums. So I spent 3 years maybe while I was doing my PhD and after I was doctored, I spent 2 or 3 years working year-to-year contracts. And it's overburdening. It's all teaching. You don't have time to do any research. And it's tough. And it's tough to get a tenured job coming out of that because you spend so much time teaching and not enough time doing research that you become, if you do it too long, I have great friends who are unhirable because they've just been off the market for too long.
Sure.
So I think that when Stephanie, I don't know, tries to defend herself in those ways, I can't help but wonder if she is, if her contracts, and I don't know, so I'm just surmising. I wonder if the tenuous nature of her contract relationship, the fact that it's year to year and not a long-term contract, I wonder if that's one of the things that makes her so defensive and so apt to lash out when she thinks people are saying or doing things that might threaten the next renewal of her contract if her bosses find out. So I'm going to grant the creature the benefit of the doubt in only one sense. I think a lot of what she's doing is covering her ass.
All right.
Robert?
So here's my only kickback. First and foremost,
kick, brother.
So my parents, I'm learning a lot right now, and so there's a whole bunch of classic literature in my parents' living room, and I always knew it was there. They didn't make us read it, but we read it, right? Because they wanted us to have the stuff that they didn't have. and one of the books is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Amazing.
I put Dr. Frankenstein on the same horrible analogy, but Training Day.
Yeah.
Denzel's character was not a bad guy.
Wait.
Right, so again,
Robert, I need to interrupt because one of our dear friends is in the chat, Lilith.
Oh.
And she said, remind him, technically, Frankenstein is the monster. Not
exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like, Denzel was not the bad guy. He wanted to clean the streets. His methods may have been fucked up, but he's like, he was painted as a bad guy, but he actually really wasn't, right? Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein was not Dr. Frankenstein was the monster. His creation got the tag, right, as the bad guy. Well, no, I mean, if all you do, you can't blame your robot for walking into a room and taking about left-hand turns if that's all you've programmed him to do. So I just wanted to geek out with you there for a moment because I've read all that shit too.
I'm returning the geekdom.
Go ahead on, but I'm going to hit SJ. Go ahead.
I never studied that book as an undergraduate or graduate student, but a few years ago I was teaching like a survey of fiction class or something, I don't know, whatever, and I wanted to build around the idea of violence and the grotesque, and so I found a bunch of fiction that lend itself to that. I thought, I've never really read Frankenstein, so I read Frankenstein a couple of times, and if there's one thing that my profession has taught me, there are all the people who say, oh, yeah, professor, like, whatever. One of the things that I've learned in all the education I did to become a professor is I have decent critical thinking skills. I'm good at interpreting shit on multiple levels. And Robert, I just want to reaffirm what you just said. You can be a guest in my class the next time I teach Frankenstein.
Do not tip me with a good time. Do not.
Dude, it's happening.
I love that. So yeah.
The connection to Training Day, and I don't know, Peter, if you know this film, do you?
Training Day, no.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Training Day is a film in which Denzel Washington is like a hardcore Los Angeles, right, Robert?
Yeah.
Like South Central LA, police inspector, detective, whatever. And he takes on a training officer. And over the course of the movie, the trainer, Denzel Washington, that incredibly handsome black man, he's like fighting crime, but at the same time, he's like building his own criminal enterprise. And he's horrible. And the reason that he's horrible is that, and I'm going to bring it all right around. I'm going to bring it back to Frankenstein. Then I'm going to bring it to Christian apologists. Brace yourself. Reason that the thing that most defines the Denzel Washington character is that he is a megalomaniac. And a megalomaniac, or megalomania, is the belief that no one's better than you, basically, right? That you are. It's like Nietzsche, the Ubermensch and the Masterman.
Yeah.
If you're Ubermensch, if you're Superman, you deserve to be a megalomaniac because you are better than everybody. Denzel Washington is a megalomaniac too. That he thinks that he is above everyone and he impresses his authority on other people. He thinks he's all-knowing, all-powerful. Yahweh is the prototype for megalomania. It's like delusions of grandeur, right? So that's the Denzel Washington character. Megalomania, delusions of grandeur. When I teach Frankenstein, that's the same thing I say about Victor Frankenstein, the doctor. His problem is he actually builds the creature originally because he's grieving the loss of his mother. His mother has died of some illness. And Victor Frankenstein, the scientist, the professor, Dr. Frankenstein, he builds this creature. He's trying to understand the secret of life because he wants to preserve life. But then he becomes like a lot of fucking Christians and American conservative Republican assholes who won't allow you to abort a fetus, but once the baby's on the scene, they get out of Dodge. They don't give a shit about that kid. Same thing happens with Victor Frankenstein. He makes this creature, the creature comes to life. Victor Frankenstein gets freaked out and runs away and wants nothing to do with the creature because it's ugly, basically, and it's made of like dead body parts. And it is the extent to which the creature misbehaves in that novel is all attributable to the fact that he's been abandoned by his father, really, the megalomaniac Victor Frankenstein. So now I've made 2 steps. Denzel Washington's character, megalomaniac. Victor Frankenstein, megalomaniac. That's what drives him. He's better than everyone, all this shit. Welcome to Christian apologists, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Because they're the same fucking thing.
Yes, they
Listen to Darth Dawkins and try to convince me that he is not a megalomaniac of the highest order. So, Robert, you will be in
we are about to geek the fuck out.
Oh, no.
So you said a lot. So I was writing it down. So I was trying.
I'm sorry.
No. So first and foremost, I want to make sure I say that I will never make an excuse for SJ. I don't give 2 shits about her job or anything like. And the only reason why is because all that matters are your end results. If you are being defensive because you're afraid you're not going to get hired next, I don't care, because if your defensiveness is what makes you put out Christianity cures depression, and the thing is, it's kind of like when they say you can pray your gay away. Oh. Yeah, you can show me the 20. Yeah, you can show me the 2,700 gay people, ex-gays, but what you don't see are the 27 million who took their life because they couldn't ex-gay themselves. So for me, I don't care if it's from. I don't care what fuels it. All I care is where your vehicle ends up. And she, to me, is lethal. But hold on.
Can I jump in real quick? Because
go ahead.
I haven't been watching the chat that much, but I did saw a question. I thought it was a really good one. It's from another dear old friend called Doorknob Head, and he said SJ is an adjunct professor.
Adjunct.
UNK? Yes. You can take the ad off and just put the junk.
Just pour a glass of water.
I mean,
just adjunct.
Adjunct. I love Doorknob Head. He always comes up with
Doorknob Head.
That's a good one.
That cracks me up.
I'll call you back.
But I wanted to also tell you, so the whole Denzel thing with the megalomaniac, his character got fucked up because in order to defeat the beast, he messed around and became the beast.
Yeah.
So that was his. Again, he wanted to clean the streets up, but he became what it is he was trying to defeat. And God, you said so much. I started to write shit down. But when you're talking about like the megalomaniac and having to flex and show your power, if there's something that you learn when you start to get to third, fourth, when you start to climb the ladder in the martial arts world, you learn what the meaning of power is. Being powerful is walking into a room knowing in advance you could probably kick the shit out of everyone. 1, choosing not to. 2, buying everyone a drink and becoming everyone's best friend.
Yeah.
That is power. And so when you tie it into like an SJ or even like the Christian God, if you got that kind of juice, there is no reason for the Holocaust to teach us how to treat Jews, to give us a slave trade, and again, she didn't say this, but the number of apologists who have sat there and said, God created rape to glorify himself. I'm like, okay, that's an asshole. Because if you got that kind of juice and you can create a universe in 6 fucking days by just sitting by yourself and talking, you don't have to create rape or the Holocaust. So this whole megalomania is like, you don't flex. When you got the juice, you don't flex. It's kind of like the dudes who send dick pics and they're hung like a 3rd grader. You know what guys with 12-inch you know what guys with 12-inch dicks don't do? Dick pics. Right? They just don't. So it's like when you feel the need to flex,
you're so smart. You're so smart.
You're the one who seems like the asshole. And so it's again, Denzel became the beast to defeat the beast. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as SJ and the Christian God and all that, if you got that kind of juice, you don't become the beast to defeat the beast. Because like you said, when we first started talking, if you just want to crank out, how do we get empathy for Jews? Just create people with empathy for Jews.
Here's the thing.
You don't flex and say, I can create a Holocaust or the slave trade or something. Yeah, it's
Robert,
you're flexing.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. That God that has the Jews could actually create heaven in which there's no sin.
Oh, yeah.
There's no suffering, nothing.
Yep.
If he has that power, why did he create Earth differently?
Well,
I said that to Craig Reed on our very first talk on the Creatures Coffee Talk.
Let me guess.
Still waiting
for an answer.
And while we're sitting here talking about that dude, I still laugh when I sent out the tweet saying, because he told me in 3 years, not only would I be a Christian, I would be on his team, evangelizing. And literally at the 1.5 year point, I sent out a tweet, tagged him in. Hey, Craig, I'm just looking for a progress report. You said I'd be a Christian in less than 3 years and I'd be on your team. How's it going? He trashed the shit out of me and then became Peter's best friend and did an interview with Peter. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen?
Should we point out that my fight with him was about this month? Remember? June.
Because I was at the gym when this went down.
No.
Because we were on public, and I was DMing you saying, I'm done. I'm not talking to Craig anymore. So remind me the details.
Yeah. It is now June. It is 3 years ago that he was on our channel the first time, telling me in 3 years,
yes,
I can demonstrate the Holy Spirit to you.
That's right.
Audible and visible.
That's right.
So it's June. I'm expecting a very important
remember
tweet.
that. Yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit, but yeah, I remember that. I do. And I was kind of a little hurt because I was like, yo, I thought I was special. Right? And then I found out he gave you the 3 year mark. I think he gave Jen with one N. The 3, I was like, oh, dude, I thought we had something.
and so, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, and this comes back to having a conversation with an apologist. I think Craig Reed sucks as an apologist because he has no answers.
He's the worst.
He has no answers. Yeah. He doesn't even want to answer. But maybe that was the reason why he and I could have a decent conversation in the middle of a really vicious Twitter war. I'm not going to apologize for anything that I've said, but it wasn't nice. And so I told him, if you really want to talk, let's talk. But we're going to do it on air. We're going to do it live. And guess what? That ended up as being a pretty decent conversation with a good back and forth. And I don't have a clue why he can't have that same conversation with you.
Yeah.
If anything, you're a lot less aggressive than I am.
Well, that day, you were the one who jumped on his back because all I had ever said was, you gave me a timeline. Mm-hmm. I'm justified in asking for a progress report. Yep. If I hire someone to build me a deck and they say in 6 months you'll have a new deck, and at 3 months I'm like, I want a progress report. How's it going? And if they acted like Craig, I'd be like, I want a refund, and I'm going to hit you on Yelp with a fucked up ass review. Yeah. And so it's like 3 years, Robert. 3 years. You're going to be a Christian and you'll be on my team. And when I asked him, he blew up at me, and you were the bigger asshole that day. I'm not going to lie. And at the end of the day, he ended up giving Peter a hand job, and I'm just like, I just want my time. I want my progress report. And it was like, Robert, you can continue to be impervious to the facts. You're just being blind. Yeah. And Peter's like, why don't you answer his fucking questions? Yeah. Hey, Peter, you're really, really nice. I like you. Robert, you're an asshole. I was like, okay. That's when I was like, I'm done. And that's
which is
What's that?
weird because at least to me it's weird, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think if you were to rank the three of us in the league of super evil of atheists, it would clearly be Peter, me, Robert, from evil to least evil.
Yep.
Am I wrong about that? And
No,
Peter,
no,
that's a compliment,
no.
not an insult.
You're 100% correct, because I'm the one who usually screws up with people.
But you catch the most fish for some crazy reason.
Yeah, but so the conversations that I enjoyed the most are, I think, the last 5 that we've had with Christians or with theists. Those
We've had
were
some
good conversations.
Yeah.
We have Joseph Nola, who you constantly retweet, Robert.
I
So
love
these are theists, but not necessarily apologists.
No. Well, Joseph Nola is a priest, or at least studying to be a priest. I forgot, but he's in seminary at the moment. But he's a great guy to talk to. He answered several questions with "I don't know," which at that point was the honest answer. The guy we had on last week from Australia, Ryan,
was a great guy.
Same
great
thing.
Guy. Great guy.
He said on several questions, I don't know. He's going.
Yep.
By the way, he's going to be back on tomorrow. Jackson Wheat agreed to help me out because I'm not qualified to talk about evolution.
What time is that?
It's midnight my time. No, we were going to do it an hour later, so it's going to be 1 a.m. my time, and that's going to be 6 U.S. Central, 6 p.m. because Jackson had to work an hour later, and so.
And you'll send out a link and a reminder.
Yeah.
That one I want to watch.
Can I backtrack a little bit?
Sure.
Peter, I don't want to interrupt you if you have
It's
more
your
to say.
show. It's your show. We're interrupting you.
I'm a guest who likes to be respectful of my of the host's home. So I guess I want to say 2 things. The first is, Robert, once again, I'm sorry, it is becoming a circle jerk. Everything you said is, I agree with 100% about the idea of like having to flex.
Yeah.
Like, I think that people who like me, like I played baseball at a pretty high level. So I played on my provincial team, never made it to the national team, but played pretty high up. So I know what it's like to be on a team and to carry yourself as a member of that kind of community and all that kind of stuff. But I have some experience of being around athletes a lot. I'll also say I'm going to plug my kids for a moment, if that's okay.
Hell yeah.
My son was a competitive platform diver.
Wow.
Who was also on who's on his provincial team. My daughter Kylie, who I just got a text from. She's asking me what's for dinner. She's an amazing person. I'm not going to brag up my kids. Like, academically distinguished. She entered a nationwide scholarship competition last year, and out of 5,900 applications, she won 4 years, $100,000 a year to go to university. So like she's smart, but it's mostly because of like the outreach stuff she does and extracurricular stuff. So she is. I'll post my goggles video of her on Twitter so you guys can see her. She's awesome.
As you should.
She was on my province's Canada Games team for swimmers. She's been the swimmer of the year in my province. Like, incredibly accomplished around elite athletes. So those are those 2 kids. First kid is 21. Second kid is 18, almost 19. And then my gem is my daughter Martha. It doesn't look like a tattoo, but it is. My pet name for her is Snartha, for a reason we don't know. And this tattoo is actually a blow up of her writing Snappy Snismus Snatty on her homemade Christmas card to me and signing it Snartha, and I blew it up, and so
that's fantastic.
Those are my kids.
Good man, ain't it?
You were talking, Robert, about so I've been around, some elite athletes. You've been around a lot, and I think the people who haven't been around elite athletes a lot, or celebrities or whatever, just wonder how can they not walk into every room and think they're the most important person, or how must the tennis player at Wimbledon, sort of just disregard the linesman or the ball boy or whatever, right? How can they not feel so high above them? The dude who squirts the Gatorade bottle into your mouth on the sidelines in the NFL. How can, Tom Brady even recognize that guy as a human being? Because Tom Brady is so great. But the great athletes who are also great people, like you said, they don't need to flex. Nope. And there's actually I don't know if it counts as a fable, but it's kind of like one of Aesop's fables. It's the fable or story of the sun and the wind, right? So there's a guy walking outside, he has a trench coat on, and the sun and the wind make a wager. Which one of us can make that guy take off his trench coat? So the wind comes in blowing like crazy, flexing the wind, right? Yeah. And the guy just keeps wrapping it tighter and tighter, can't get it off. And the sun steps and says, okay, my turn. And Robert, this might hit a little close to home right now, but
try me.
The sun steps in and turns the heat up a bit. And gently, right, and very passively, he's not attacking like the wind, he's not flexing, he's just making a warm, sunny day. And the guy takes off his coat, right? So there's strength in not flexing.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a whole other thing that I'm glad you mentioned it because I didn't want to bring it up myself.
Hit it.
But now I will. It's the only time you'll hear me speak highly of myself, I hope. So while I was away from you guys, I did feel really disconnected from the community and our community. And it really, I learned a lot about how important, you talked about this a bit earlier, Twitter's really important when used wisely in building those communities. And I reflected on the times when I had not used it wisely, all that kind of stuff. But not being on Twitter, like I would watch you guys and I could read your posts here and there, but I couldn't reply to them. And I would watch assorted videos of both from and with both of you online. But, I felt like I was out of the conversation just because I was off Twitter. No one's fault. I could have done more to get back into the community. And Peter, that's why I emailed you back before I got my Twitter account restored in the recent last month or so, because I'm like, I missed that space. I've been out of it. I want to get back into it. So I got back into it. So I do want to, again, this is the only time you'll hear me kind of brag.
Hit it.
Robert, you brought up reparative therapy. Pray away the gay.
Yes.
Right? That heinous malpractice. So, back in the fall of 2019, so this is almost 2 years ago, my office is in a building that's about, 15 stories high. And there's a sort of annex to my building on the ground floor and the second floor where there's classroom space. And I entered my building one Tuesday morning in the fall of 2019, entered the main entrance, and there's a lobby, a large foyer. And you'll often see student society tables set up there. It's the bake sale to raise money for study abroad or, whatever.
Right.
But I walk in this one particular day, and so it was around Halloween. And I know that because they were giving away, Halloween-sized chocolate bars and stuff.
Yeah.
And the table, and they had a big banner behind them, and they had a whiteboard where the thing that caught my eye was, there were questions like, I don't know, do you believe that goodness and morality are grounded in the spirits or in God or whatever? And they were attracting people to the table just inside the foyer with their little miniature candy bars. Fill out a little card, give us your email address, tell us if you believe in God, whatever, and they give them the candy bar, and that's fine. But I looked at the banner and I'm like, I don't recognize the banner at all. Like it is like I've seen religious student groups around. They were obviously religious,
Right.
but I don't get it. And the banner, so I got up to my office and Googled it, and the banner was CRU, CRU. I'm like, CRU? What the fuck is that? So people listening, give it a Google. CRU is the how can I say this? CRU is the well-behaved version of Campus Crusade for Christ. So there was this organization called Campus Crusade for Christ across at least all of North America. I don't know about the rest of the world, but North America certainly. And their job was to convert people, right? So that's what they're doing. They're, you get a chocolate bar, you write your email or whatever. So I'm Googling and I'm reading about this Campus Crusade for Christ. And the reason they changed their name from Campus Crusade to Christ to just CRU, CRU, which is the first half of Crusade, is that they I've Googled this, I assume it's true. Why else would they change their name? They weren't, Campus Crusade for Christ was kind of faltering a bit. And they talked to some PR people who said, you know what, it's the word crusade. Yeah. Like the word crusade has bad associations. So they changed their name to CRU, CRU. So I knew a little bit about Campus Crusade for Christ, now CRU already. Right. And I don't know if it's a position held by the entire organization, but certainly members and proponents of CRU have endorsed reparative therapy, the pray away the gay. And I was in an incandescent rage that this outfit, this pray away the gay, hate mongering piece of shit. I didn't care about the Christianity part. I cared about the hate and the gay people part.
Yep.
And I'll say quickly, Robert, the way you talk about the LGBT community as a whole, especially transgendered people as brothers and sisters, you rule. So
thank you so much.
I'm Googling this. I'm learning about blah, 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 CRU, Crusade for Christ, whatever. And I go to teach my first class of the day, which is, I don't know, like 10:30 in the morning. And it's a first-year English class, and it's a class of 60 people, around 60 people. I don't know how many people were there that day. Yeah. But we were, in the first month, I guess halfway through the semester, and it's a poetry class where I was teaching them all the poet persona, don't confuse all that shit. Yeah. But we interpret poems. That's what we do in the class. And I got in and to the class and set up and got my screen going, all that kind of stuff. And then I said, and I live in a part of the world, I'm surrounded by, it's really true for you, Robert. I'm surrounded by Christians, and Jesus. Most of them are well-meaning. They love you, love your neighbor, that kind of shit. So, come to the class, I'm setting it up, and I'm about to start. I don't really lecture. I kind of talk. My classes are basically like what we're doing today.
Conversations.
That's the way I roll. Conversations. That's how you learn. Inductive reasoning, inductive learning. Anyhow, I'm getting set up, and I think I actually started getting into the poem. I always project the poem we're reading for that day up on a screen, so we can all read it together, see it together. I move around and all that kind of stuff. And I got going, and I'm like, you know what? I got to stop. I said, and the reason I got to stop is that I want to tell you what I encountered on the way into the building today. And I said, did anyone see this table? Yeah, a few people saw the table. Did anyone get a candy bar? Yeah, a few people got it. I said, okay, here's the deal. And I told them all the things I've just told you guys and everyone about Campus Crusade for Christ, pray away the gay, all that stuff. And I told my class, these are at least adjacent to pray away the gay people. So I said, look, I'm going to make, and again, this is the only time you'll hear me speak well of myself. I said to my class, I said, look, I don't care what you believe what you want. It's not my business. I won't judge you for it. But I think we have to judge. I think we have a moral and civic responsibility to judge the behavior of others. And I said, here's what these people stand for. So I said to the class, I said, I would like as many of you who want to join me. There's no obligation. Stay where you are. I don't care. As many of you who want to join me, come with me down the hall, because the table, the CRU table, is 100 feet away, maybe. So I said, as many of you want to join me, let's go. And we're going to go there and we're going to chant, pray away the gay. So, oh no, sorry, not pray away the gay. We're going to co-opt the pray away the gay slogan, and we're going to chant, pray away the hate. So,
lovely.
About 30, 35 of the 50 or 60 people came, because no one had to, and I didn't try to like pick, oh, look who's coming. And so we went there, walked down the hall en masse, and the halls were empty at this time because it was during class time. And there was the table, and we chanted pray away. So we went, pray away the hate, pray away the hate. And we did that for, I don't know, 30 seconds maybe.
Right.
And then woo, cheered, and then walked back to the class. In the class, I explained again why I'd done that and that I wasn't judging anyone, but we should discuss this if you want to. Oh, sure. I know why. It happened to be a day that I was teaching a poem by, oh my God, Amy Lowell, called The Weathercock Points South, which seems to be a poem about a flower. It's actually a poem about a woman performing oral sex on another woman. Hot lesbian sex poetry of the early 19th century. I'll post a link. Anyhow, I know I'm glad. So we had a little conversation. All is good. After the class, I stopped by again to this table, and they've changed the question to something that's mildly offensive. And I'm just like, what, what are you doing? So that's fine. I'm like, okay, I give up. Then I went by again I only had to teach one class that day. I went by the foyer or the lobby again, and they were doing like some street preaching in the lobby. And I'm like, this shit doesn't work. And I don't know if I kept the sign. I wonder if I did. I went to the university bookstore. I bought a big piece. I don't know what you call it in Texas or Holland. Bought a big piece of yellow Bristol board, we called it. Cardboard, yeah.
Poster board,
and I bought a big red Sharpie, and I wrote on it in really jagged, almost AC/DC letters, Peter. I wrote something like, Crew is a hate group with the website. And I went up behind where they were in the lobby. There's like a stairway, an open stairway. And so I was like 8 steps up the stairway, right behind where they were with their table and their sign. And I put my Bristol board sign in yellow and red over top of it from behind to say, pray away the hate. Here's what Crew is, whatever.
Good on you. Yeah.
So I end up having a long conversation with a bunch of the people there. The crew, the Canadian crew leader, was giving a talk on campus that day, and I had been arguing with them for a little while, politely, and they actually called him and got him to come visit the foyer to talk to me, because I was trying to convince them that I am I'm morally superior to their God, and all the usual proofs that I use. That's fine. I'm getting there. I promise I'm getting to the end of it. So we had a nice chat, and then they had to leave because they had to go to this talk, and it was a public talk. This was pre-pandemic, fall of 2019, and they got 500-600 people listening. Whatever, I'm not interested. The day after that, how can I say this without doxing myself? I was and am a high-ranking member of one of the 3 major governance bodies of our university, the thing that writes, revises, and enforces academic policy, budget things, all that kind of shit, right? So I'm a higher up. I'm well known in that world. I'm not an accomplished, I'm never going to be dean or anything like that, but like I kind of know my shit in that way.
Yeah.
So the next day, after the crew people were there was a meeting of this university Senate body. And one of the questions I asked, and at this monthly meeting of this body, of the Senate body, people basically provide reports and present documents to be approved, more or less. And I knew that at this meeting, all of the university senior administration is there. The president says things, the provost, the VP budget and finance, the deans of the colleges, all that shit. They're all there. And the presidents of the student groups are there as well. So open question period comes in this meeting of Senate, and I went to the mic and I said, I want to tell you what happened to me or what I experienced yesterday. And I told them everything I told you, the taking the kids down to chant, the crew, the sign, the arguments, all this kind of shit. And I said, my question is this. the foyer of that building is not a student society place, actually. There is like there's a tunnel that connects my building with the student society, and it's like a football field long, but as wide as a wide corridor. And the student society set up all their tables there. So I got up in council and asked the university president and the dean of the college where my building is in and the president of the student union. I said, my question is this: is this a student society approved table? Because student society has to approve shit that goes up that speaks for students. I said, I asked, is this a student society approved table and group? And also, given that it isn't in the usual student society place, did the dean of my college approve the table? And I know that you can rent that space to put up, ads for recruiting military or something, right?
Sure.
Did the group pay to use the space? Now, no one could answer my questions at all. They couldn't answer who approved it. Did they pay? I work at a big institution. It gets through the cracks. That's fine.
Right.
And here comes the singing of my praises.
Hit it.
I learned during the pandemic. So I posed this question too to the student society president. Does the student society approve this group? Because here's what they stand for. And I stood up in front of, 300 people in the Senate meeting to say, here's what, and I read them tweets and things like, here's what this shit is. So no one had any answers. During the pandemic, about, near the beginning, like very near, like maybe April or May of last year, I'm farting around on the internet and I went to the university newspaper where I saw a story that the student society had decided to ban crew from campus.
Outstanding.
Forever.
Outstanding.
Now,
outstanding.
That is the one bit. You guys have done a ton of good for the community in the last few years. That's the one thing that I've done that I can say, I think I helped. I don't think I'm the cause, but I think I've put something on the radar and helped to change something for the better.
But those emotional maggots should not be. That's predatory to me.
Oh, I think it is.
Right. To when I see those debates and like Turek and all those people, it's like, again, one, you're a professional liar, and two, you're quizzing a 19-year-old kid who's literally 3 years removed from getting their fucking driver's license, right? 8 years removed from puberty, and you're going to crush them with this bullshit. And it's predatory, especially when you start talking about the crews of the world who are sitting there. And we always have this discussion during reunions. Because, at least when I played in college, there were 25 recruits per class. And so at any one time, there's somewhere between 125, that's not even counting walk-ons. So let's say there's 150 guys on your team. Someone's gay. Someone's gay in those numbers. That's just the bottom line. Those are statistics, right? But and then you sit here and you're like, you've never been more confused. Or you're trying to figure, especially at least when I played, back when you could call them FAG. You're so vulnerable. You're so raw. You're like, well, I want to go and kiss this dude, but if I do. So my point is, those campus predators, to me, you're not catching. Go to Pride Parade.
Yeah.
Go to Pride Parade and preach that shit. And if you get a convert, then you've earned it. But when you got an 18-year-old who just left Alabama, their parents are a hardcore Southern Baptist. If you even think about sex, much less gay sex, you're an abomination. And now you've got these assholes on campus just reeling them in. And that's why it's predatory. So congratulations, because those assholes do not need to be on a college. Again, I with the exception of this year, I've never missed a Pride Parade. And let me tell you something. And it was Matt Powell, Peter, during our pregame show. And out of nowhere, it's like, hey, I'm Robert. Hey, I'm Peter. Hey, I'm Matt. And we're maybe 3 minutes away from going on air. And he seriously asked me and Peter, are any one of you homos?
Yep.
And I was like, what?
No.
And he was like,
that was
like, well, one.
That was the last second before we went on air.
Yeah. And it was like, well, one that's got nothing to do with the conversation. I remember asking him, do you know what a bear is? And he was like, well, it's that thing that lives in the woods. Like, no. And the LGBT is like, well, I've got no idea. And I was like, dude, you should keep your fucking mouth shut.
Yeah.
Because when you say a homo, you're thinking that person over there, right? Finger snapping, wearing all pink.
Right.
But what you don't understand, a bear is bigger than I am.
Right. Yeah.
Right? This big muscular dude, and you got this big deep voice. Call him a homo. Right?
Yeah.
See how that works out for you.
They're about as masculine as you get.
Oh yeah, there's a club here. I've been, and it's like, I'm like, hey sir, can I buy you a drink? Because these dudes are fucking massive. So it's like, I want to see crew go recruit those guys. Because it's just predatory.
Because they can't
go pick. Well, yeah, it's like an 18-year-old who, again, if you live in Austin, Jesus, if you live in America, chances are you were raised in a Christian household some way, somehow.
Yep.
And you were told that what you're feeling, even though you never admit it, is bad, horrible, disgusting. And now you're sitting on a college campus and you're probably doing stuff behind closed doors while saying you're straight to everyone's face. And then you've got crew. Again, that's just predator. Again, if you really want to show how tough you are, crew, go to a pride parade and go talk to a person who's my size, who just so happens to like dudes only, and go pull that bullshit on them. And again, if you can get a conversion off of that, I'll be the first one to say congratulations. But I'll also be the first one to visit you in the fucking emergency room when they all beat the shit out of you. And I'm going to say, I told you so, as they're tubing your throat because they just pounded the shit out of your esophagus. No sympathy.
I'm going to very quickly offer proof of concept for your claim, and I wish I'd thought to use that word with my students, that crew is being predatory. Well, who are the other groups, especially at the beginning of the school year? What are the other groups, organizations, whatever, that set up tables on campus? Yes, you get the philosophy club bake sale and the poster sale. But other than that, you had until recently on my campus, at least. And if any of you out there are working on or near a campus, want to like must and get them booted off your nearby campus, not a bad idea. So who are they apart from the bake sale and all that shit? What do you see, especially at the beginning of years when students are new? They're young, first of all, and many of them are new to campus. They've never been in a university. I work at a university that pulls a lot of people in a lot of students in from small towns. They have like I shouldn't say a lot. Some kids that I teach, like they haven't seen traffic lights that had more than just like one red or like that shit. Like, and they're just wide-eyed and stuff. So what do you see? You see the bake sale, you see the poster sale, all that shit. You see the Christians, the evangelicals. You see the credit card companies. And you see the military. And no disrespect to the military, but they're all doing the same thing. They're all recruiting impressionable young people. And I don't know if I want to call the military predatory. I know, Robert, that you have a history in that area. But credit card companies and crew, they're doing the same thing. They are playing on and preying on deliberately the weaknesses and impressionability of those kids. 100% true.
But that's the reason why I won't, even if I didn't have a military background, the reason why I'm not going to call that predatory is there is a positive outcome. We need a military, whether you agree with it or not, pacifist or not, we need a military. There is a measurable benefit to having a defense. Give a kid, especially like from small town America, I remember a documentary called Broke, and it was hard to watch. But long story short, it was the over like 80 some odd %, 3 years after NFL, Major League Baseball, or the NBA, like 80+% have less than zero. And you're like, how do you make $80 million and now you're on food stamps? And the dude who did the documentary was like, yo, I was so ready to judge all these guys and call them entitled assholes. And then I realized at 24, you don't learn how to manage $50,000 versus $50 million, right? And so the credit card companies are banking on those kids not having any financial education. So that's predatory because you're like, hey, I'm going to give you $1,000 limit. You can do whatever you want. And all you got to give me is $15. That's it. But what they don't say is compounding interest and marks on your credit.
Right, yeah.
That's predatory. And when you have crew and people like that, that's predatory. Because, again, you go from small town America or just Christianity in general, or even if you're not Christian, in this country, we're not, I'm speaking of my generation, we're not kind to gay people. We're just not. And now here you are with someone, your first time being away from mom and dad. If you're a girl, now you can go kiss that girl. If you're a dude, now you can go kiss that dude. You lie about it, but you're doing like, wow, this feels so much better than when I kiss someone from the opposite gender. Maybe I am gay. Then you get, can you hear my dogs? You assholes. Then you get crew to sit there with that one person who's like, well, if I kiss another dude and my name is John, I'm going to go to hell. Here comes crew. And now, again, SJ won't see it, and all those idiots who sit there and say you can pray the gay way, they will never see it. Again, here are the 2,700 who prayed the gay away.
Yep.
But the 27 million suicide victims, they don't self-report. That's why that shit is the military we need. We do not need Christianity. And we don't.
I want to say something too, because Flynn, you said something earlier, and I need to respond to that.
Oh, please, sorry, Pete.
You said we're doing a lot of things, and you just did one thing. Here's what I've been doing since I've been doing this, and that is supporting other people, trying to set up a channel, because it's not about who does the most. We need to approach different people, and different people need different approaches. So the more people we can get to get in touch with those people, the better it is. And we all, including this channel, because we're a tiny channel, but we make a small ripple, and the more small ripples we make, they will end up being a wave, and that is how we counter this. Yep. And so never say such and such is doing more. There is no doing more.
All right, pitching in.
It
pitching
is
in
exactly.
And that's
all the little steps.
Yeah. So, and I hate to interrupt this. I did plan on on going longer.
I know.
Usually we make
Peter.
This,
we've only been talking for 5 minutes. What are you talking about?
It's just like last time, Flynn, when we did this off air. We were supposed to talk for just a short time because the other ones couldn't join, and we ended up talking 2 hours?
Oh, 2 hours plus.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. We're
over 2 hours.
Jesus, I just saw the time. Holy shit!
Give the audience a break. Can I before I know Peter, you're going to shut us down. I just want to say, please have me back. Invite me.
We will
invite me to join whatever conversations. I don't always have to talk this much, but I've had a lot bottled up.
There is a thing going on that I did in the side chat. So the rest of the team is going to join. So stick around. I think they all want to meet you. So
they're going to join in this chat.
Yep. Yeah, the moment we go off air, they already have the link, so they'll hop on.
I might have to run to the potty, but other than that, I have to take my 29-minute break to drain the weasel.
Drain the weasel and freshen up the littlest motherfucking engine.
Oh yeah, you always say freshen up. When you first started saying it, I thought you meant freshening up yourself. Then I realized, oh no, he's talking about the booze.
But I just want to say,
thank you, Peter.
It was an absolute delight to have you, and I'm
very much so
happy that you're back on social media, and we need to stay in touch because apparently when you have a friendship, it's a friendship. It doesn't matter if there's a tiny hiatus.
My greatest virtue and my greatest fault is that I'm a very loyal person.
Me too.
Same for me. And
you are not alone.
At times it has cost me, but overall I'm happy. I'm happy because I've got a ton of really good friends.
Yeah.
And that's what you get. But
if you build it, they do come.
That's the truth.
So, do you have any famous last words, at least for this episode?
Robert, I think you should go last because you have such an emphatic voice. It's always a good note to end on.
I will wait my turn in line. I'll do whatever.
He can't because I got an announcement to make.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No. Flynn's first.
Go ahead, Flynn.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. It is, and Peter, you've also helped to engineer this. It's so good to be getting slowly reconnected with the old gang, as I like to think of us. I don't know. I'm amazed at how many people remember me more than anything. So thank you, you guys. And I look forward to continuing the conversations. I'm going to do my best to be well behaved on Twitter and to make a backup account this time, which probably I should have done before. But please give me a follow. Check me out. Just look for Professor Flynn, Flyin.
I'll put the link to your Twitter account in the description, so it'll be easy for people to find you.
I might just end up switching it to Professor Flynn, but I've been a bit leery about doing that because I'm worried about the crowd out there who's going to try to shut me down again, right? So, but my behaving well will certainly help. So thank you, Peter. Robert, I can't tell you. Well, I've told you.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah.
You're the best. Please
thank you.
Listen. So my pinned tweet on my Twitter account is, I subscribe to the Robert Reed Gin and Tonic podcast, and I think that as many people who can subscribe should. Now,
really? Dude, holy crap! I didn't know that.
Dude, Robert, I only had 15 followers, but I've seen a couple people retweet it. So,
man,
if I help you get, hey man, if I can bring one more person to your audience, I'll be doing you a favor and them a favor because I said it and I meant it. It is. I'm a person who listens to podcasts at night. I sort of fall asleep to them. My latest rotation is new stuff like that. It's been you. So, Robert, the last few minutes, I've fallen asleep to your podcast, but in a good way. Because they're playing all the time. I believe in osmosis. I wake up. I many of the things you hear today.
Thank you so much, man.
I have heard in the podcast. Subscribe to the Gin and Truth podcast.
Thank you so much. I am touched.
Professor Flynn, out of here. Go for it.
You can't beat that. Thank you so much.
And cheers. We haven't done this for some reason.
Shit. I only got less than a swallow, but my man. Cheers.
You're my man. You're my man.
I've got coffee because it's late. I need coffee. So what I did want to say is that I've been planning on doing another show on the channel, which is opening it up for other people to have not a debate but a conversation. I've already have 2 people confirmed, which is something that would be pretty unusual. It's an ex-Muslim and a terrible Muslim apologist. I can't say anything else. But that's going to be fun, and I get to moderate. So
awesome.
I'm going to have my mouth shut unless they misbehave.
Well, I think chances are high for misbehaving.
So are we putting bets down?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the dollar amount? What's the buy-in?
I'm hoping I can kick that off with the person that I stole the title from, and so the title of the new show, I'll divulge, that is going to be Second Opinions, and people who know why I'm on here will now know who the person was who said that. But
Right.
Not going to say it out loud this time. You'll have to keep an eye on the channel.
Sounds good.
And we also have a show that I'm going to do with Lilith, with Ken Miller, which I'm about to set up. So keep an eye out for that one. On Raw's going to come back, and I've got two very special guests that I'm going to do a show with. Artie, he doesn't know yet, but I don't care. He just has to make sure that he's there, because
Looking forward to that.
these
Pretty much.
people and Artie will be like that. Just saying. So keep an eye on the channel, and Robert, as always, great having you as a co-host.
Anytime. Glad to be back in the rotation.
We need to do more
I
shows.
bet.
So
You guys are the best.
I will set those up.
So,
Thanks for everyone who hung in this long in the side chat. Always a pleasure to see the usual people there. So keep an eye on what's coming, and we'll catch you all later. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.